Hi, hello. Thank you for joining us here at the ACC's Community Room for Gentle Yoga at noon. I'm Jeani, your host for the next hour or so. Today's practice, we've been working on a lot of hip openers, stretching out the limbs. We're going to continue that, and we don't have anything special in store today, but I will be cueing from a chair. If you have issues with meeting the distance, we'll be doing our forward fold, and sometimes if you have a sore back or tight legs, it's just kind of nice to kind of use the hands to kind of walk down by the chair or by these blocks. So that being said, I can't really think of anything else you might need. But if you have something in your practice that you like to use during class, please feel free. So having said that, we'll start at the back of the mat as we usually do, just to arrive. And as you settle in, you don't have to change the quality of the breath. You don't have to do anything but just notice how you're arriving. At the back of the mat, in our mountain position, palms facing forward, arms relaxed at the side, gentle bend to the knees. And in our mountain position, feet are about hips distance apart under the hip bones. And just notice how you feel. If you have a tendency to roll out at the feet on the outer edge or inward at the arches, do you like to hang out by the heels? Is your center of gravity somewhere other than the top of the arch, nearer to the heels? We'll start to cultivate our breath as we start to settle in. Bringing the left palm to rest on our chest, right palm under the belly button. Go ahead and breathe for the next few breath cycles. That's an inhale, a brief pause, an exhale, and a brief pause again before the cycle starts. And as you first arrive, it might be a very quick breath cycle, maybe a couple seconds long. But as we cultivate the breath, hopefully it gets a little longer. With each inhale, feel the ribs expand upwards, outwards. Maybe that chest hand lifts at the top of the inhale. With the exhale, slower, with a little more control. You can engage the core at the bottom of the exhale, even pressing in that belly hand. Help press that air out of the belly. All right, let's go ahead. Develop one more thing. You can bring the hands down to the sides, but we'll bring a voice, a sound to our breath. Enlarging the space at the back of the throat. Let's go ahead and breathe deeply. Maybe you can hear the sound of the ocean. A deep sigh. Something to finish cultivating our yogic breath. With the sound of our ocean breath, we'll go ahead and begin making movement in our breath together. So standing in our mountain once more, just bring the hands down, relaxed at the side, reaching downward. We're going to inhale, start to extend the arms above the head. Really reaching upwards, we're going to really feel all points of our feet. And then go ahead and bring the hands back down. With the next inhale, start to roll the center of gravity towards the toes. Finish at the top of that inhale and start to roll the center of weight towards the heels with the next breath. We're going to do that just a couple of breaths to find that heel to toe alignment. And then we'll meet back at center. In our mountain, go ahead and reset once more, lengthening through the legs as you are able. And as we lift upwards, feeling the energy lifting up through the crown of the head, let's go ahead and exhale. Roll the weight towards the side of your feet. One side. I'm going to my right. Go ahead and finish inhaling or exhaling. Then use the next breath to come all the way back up. Move on over to the other side. And use this 2-part breath to move from side to side. You can also inhale to the center and exhale to either side. That's a 3-part breath, but either way, just use the breath cycles to find that horizontal mapping at the soles of our feet. We'll meet back at center, shifting into our mountain once more. You might lift up the heels, lift up the toes, reset, mountain once more, inhaling nice and tall. We're going to have that feeling of a string at the crown of the head lifting as we start to make small circles at the ankles. Imagine small circles radiating outward towards the perimeter of your feet until you can identify the edge. Your body is upright, and just notice how that feels, how that affects your center. And then once the perimeter is identified, go ahead and bring in the circles, smaller and smaller until we arrive back at mountain, centered somewhere at the top of the ankles, near to the heels. Reset the mountain once more. You can bounce on the knees. Let go of any activation of muscles from that last pose. We'll go ahead and inhale upwards, feeling that really nice lifting action, and then small circles once more, but in the opposite direction. Sometimes the same path, but in a different direction, will really reveal a great deal about the balance, especially the center in the body at the point of your practice. Let's go ahead and bring in those circles. Come on back to center and reset the mountain once more. Alrighty, and we'll move on up to lubricating some of the ankles, hips, maybe the knees and shoulders. So just start shifting weight from one side of the foot to the other foot. One leg to the other leg. And as you're moving more and more, you can widen the stance between the feet. We're going to start to shift onto our heel, pivoting gently. If you have plantar fascia, you don't have to be in the center, but we're just pivoting the ball of the foot as we turn from side to side, with more of a natural momentum occurring at the arms that are really nice and relaxed. You might have the arms just swinging, tapping at the sides. Don't forget to bend the knees as you swivel from side to side. More of the chest moving to one side means more of that ball of foot is lifted as you go. And just notice that opening at the hips, hopefully at the ankles, and we'll let that momentum peter out, return to center. Come on back to your mountain. And then shake that off once more, reset the mountain. We're moving on up towards the shoulders. See if you can step into your mountain pose. If you have a tendency to go towards the outer edge of your feet, come on in towards the arches and then kind of settle in. So all points of the feet are just nice and flat down on the floor. We're inhaling as we come up towards the shoulders. See if you can tuck the tailbone slightly. Press into the big pad of the big toe of each foot and try to lengthen through the legs as you're able. We'll go ahead and inhale, palms are facing forward, shoulders are going to lift towards the ceiling. At the top of this inhale, we're just going to exhale slowly, roll those shoulders back and down, coordinating with the exhale. At the bottom of the exhale, fully engage the core. Inhaling, shoulders up, exhaling, rolling them back and down. See if you can hear the ocean with each breath cycle that you complete. It's about a total of 4. Our first set has our shoulders rolling back on the exhale. Let's start our next set. Inhaling, shoulders come up, but we roll them forward on the exhale this time. Notice if there's any shifting at the soles of the feet. See if you can keep your support stable from the hips down. Finishing our last shoulder shrug roll forward and down. Let's go ahead and reset our mountain. If you have a tendency to grip the mat, always lift the feet. Reset, and coming up towards our opening at the throat, at the face, at the crown of the head. Palms facing forward, gentle tuck of the chin. Again, that string at the top of the crown of the head, hopefully bringing that length so you can find the ear over the shoulder, over the hips, over the ankles. And with the next inhale, just lift up through the crown of the head, So all you have to do is exhale. Let that right ear gravitate towards the right shoulders. Inhaling, lifting up through the sternum, turning the gaze on the exhale. Palms should face forward. Relax. Let the gaze eventually rest at the rightmost of your vision by your 4th breath cycle. See if you could hear the ocean at the back of the throat. At the very last exhale, engage the core. Inhale, the eyes, the gaze. The crown of the head lifts at the top of the inhale. So all you have to do is gravitate towards the left shoulder with the exhale. Inhaling for length, exhaling to turn the gaze until you naturally stop. Using the next few breaths, see if you can keep that center from the shoulders down. Evenly distributed weight, each shoulder in a horizontal line. Shoulders in a horizontal line, hips at a horizontal line, feet at a horizontal line, supporting the body. With that last exhale, maybe you can find the gaze resting leftmost of your vision, finding release to the right side of your neck, palms to face forward. We can inhale the eyes, the gaze, the crown of the head completely back up, and then just let the eyes float downward towards the top of the mat, about 6 feet in front of you. We still have length to the back of the neck. As we lift up with each inhale, we have that slight vertical tilt at the crown of the head. See how stable and supported the body feels as one long column of support. Breathe into the length of the back of the neck. Good space between the chin and the chest, about the size of a tennis ball. And expand outwardly if you can with each inhale, engaging the core with the exhale. Feel rooted at the bottom of the exhale. With the last exhale, we're going to go ahead, inhale, bring the eyes back up towards the center, past the center, and look upwards. When you can see above, stop craning the neck, and use the next 4 breath cycles. Inhales and exhales, pauses in between, to see if you can release through the mouth, the tongue, the throat. You can make a small O opening, make it a little wider. You can gently sway the lower jaw from left to right. When you're done with your 4th and final breath cycle, exhaling finally, you can go ahead and inhale, the eyes back to center. Go ahead and give it a nice gentle bend to the knees. Shake out anything that's still active in your body from that last pose, and we'll start our modified walking sun salutations. We'll begin with our pose of folding first. So hips distance apart are our feet, standing nice and tall in our mountain, reaching downwards. Let's go ahead and inhale the arms once more. Feel that lengthening. We're going to press into all points of the feet, reaching up at the top with our fingertips. Exhale, engage the core, bend the knees, start to come on down with the straight back. Hinging at the hips. Somewhere halfway down, you can always walk the hands down. And we're coming down to our first fold of the practice. It's a pretty lengthy fold. You might need to let the back just unfold on its own. You might have forearms to the thighs, a deep bend to the knees if your back of the legs are super tight. If the hips are tight, you may need to just allow them to open up. Keeping the forearms supported at the thighs, maybe where you are for the next 5 breath cycles. Actually, we're probably into our 3rd one by this time. But if you can feel the release at the lower back, down the spine, down the neck, you might be able to facilitate that release by simply letting the arms relax wherever they may be. Feel that nice column of support from the hips down to the heels. See if you can gently bobble from left to right, the head. See if you're holding on to the weight of the head with the neck.
Just let the crown of the head almost be like a plumb line. And then with the next inhale, we're going to slowly roll out of this forward fold. And you can assist yourself coming back up with your hands. But first start by engaging your core. Press into the feet, firm up the legs, stick the belly button to your spine. Start to straighten up. You can start to walk the hands up the legs somewhere halfway up, but really try to engage the glutes, the thighs. And as you come up, one vertebra at a time. Head is the last to stack, shoulders melt down the back. Just give yourself a moment to let the blood rush back to the head. Inhaling once more, let's fold once more. So bringing the arms up, lengthening up at the top of the inhale. Exhale, engage the core, bend the knees if you need, stick the butt back, and we're folding. Halfway down, walk your hands down or float on down. We're here only for about 3 breath cycles this time. You can still assist in opening up the back if you need. You can always sway the hips from side to side. You can check that center of gravity, see if it changed in the transition. Keeping it at the top of the ankles, nearer to the heels. You can keep your thighs and your forearms connected if that helps. But see if you can really bring all 4 points of the soles of the feet to bear the weight of yourself. And then we'll come up once more. Either a slow roll up on the inhale in an engaged core once more, or you can do a long back. Either way, engage the core, stepping into the feet, firming up the legs. We are going to inhale. Slowly curl up one vertebra at a time, or come up with a straight back. The strength of the inhale. Lengthening up at the top of the prayer hands. We're going to press the hands down on the exhale. We'll begin our walking meditation. Standing weight to the left leg. Keep a bend if you need. Lift the right foot. Inhaling. Exhale it down. Stepping fully. Inhale the left foot up. Exhale that left foot down. You can do a heel to toe, slow, gentle movement. You can put the center of your foot down if your heel is sensitive. But it's a slow walking meditation. 1 full breath cycle per step. And as we meet at the top of the mat in mountain, looking down at the fingertips, inhale, press into the palms, extend the arms up. At the top, we separate the palms, engage the core and hinge the hips. At the hips, bend the knees and come on down for another fold. Maybe your chair is there, maybe your blocks, but come on down with a little more length. A little more of the chest maybe coming towards the thigh this time. We will inhale for a half lift here. Press into wherever your hands have contact. Lengthen through the back. Feel that tailbone to heel stability, and at the same time tailbone to the crown of the head length. And then exhaling, just relax the chest towards the belly. Give a bend to your knees if you need, and you can always walk the hands on the chair, on the blocks, to bend the knees slightly, bringing the hands at either side of the feet. We start to walk the hands down, the feet back towards the back of the mat, into a high plank. We bring the shoulders over with an inhale, and let's bring the knees down, shins down, tops of the feet, toes are untucked, and we're modified in our first high plank. Feel free to stay in a long plank if that's in your practice, but as we begin, feel your high plank modified. Shoulders above the wrists. If you have sensitive wrists, maybe the hands can go out a little more so it's not quite a 90-degree angle at the wrists. You can also lift the knees and sort of walk the knees back a little bit onto the shins and tucking the toes if the tops of the feet are sensitive. But we're going to stick the belly button, engaging the core, really pressing into the arms for this modified high plank. And inhale, tuck the toes, lift up the hips. Exhale, press the hips back, lengthen through the arms for our first down dog. And here, your heels may be lifted. That's okay. You can play with this position of down dog. Hopefully your fingers are splayed, middle fingers and index fingers are near to the top. Distribute the weight through these splayed fingers so that you have almost like a tented feeling at the center of your palm. Not all the weight bearing onto the heel of your palm if you can. Lengthen through those arms. And with the next inhale, roll up to the toes. And with an exhale, really engaging the core. Lower the heels to where they naturally land. Don't force it to touch the mat. It doesn't need to. We take one more inhale. Look to the hands. Bend those knees. And we can walk the hands to the back of the mat to our fold. Fully exhaled here. Bring that weight of the hips over the heels, bending the knees. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Fully exhaled at the fold. Inhale, engage the core. Bring the knees to bend if you need. Bring that core in and come on up. Slow roll up or straight back with the inhale. Hands above the head. Exhale, hands down, heart center. Feel that condensing, that really bringing in your inner thighs, your inner arches, and really the core engaging. So we're going to do our second meditation here, walking meditation, inhaling. Lift the right foot, exhale it down. Lift the left foot, inhaling, exhale that foot down. And as we walk slowly, one breath cycle per step. If you fall out, that's okay. Start to press into the hands, keep your core engaged if you feel wobbly. At the top of the mat, look down at the fingertips, press into the palms, inhale the hands above, separate there and exhale. Hinge at the hips to fold. Come on down for your second, maybe third fold. Fourth, I think. Inhale, half lift. Lengthen through the back. Exhale, bend the knees. Walk the hands to either side of the feet once more. And we're walking the feet back to that high plank. And this time, long, strong plank. Inhaling, shoulders over the wrists. Feel that length from the heels all the way to the crown of the head. You can lift up your hips higher than the hypotenuse, but not lower. Don't let the lower back curve. Inhaling one more time, stick the belly button to the ribs. We're going to lift up the hips. Exhale, push the hips back to our down dog. And maybe this time as the heels are lifted and you're lowering, you might find them lowering just a little bit more. Closer you get down to the mat, you might find more of that pigeon-toed position, slight pivoting of the heels outwards. And eventually, we'll get the full flat of the feet downward. But it does not have to for now. We're just opening up through the hips. One more inhale, look to the hands. Bend the knees deeply if you need to. We're going to walk the hands to the back of the mat, to the feet, to our fold once more. Fully exhaled here. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, engage the core. Come on up, your choice. All the way at the top, lengthen. Exhale, hands down, heart center. Finally down to the side. Relax in your mountain. Let go. Only keep those muscles active to keep you upright. All right, and this is a great time to drink some water. We're going to be moving to our balance poses. And today's class, I'm going to introduce the wide-legged stance, as well as using blocks to help us meet that distance. If you need the chair, if you need the blocks, we'll be folding with our legs kind of wide, sideways. And it just helps to open up the hips as we abduct them away from the center line, giving a good range to the hips and limbs and length. So let's go ahead. If you have a chair nearby, I'll show you as we're going, only about 2 tiles or so. If you have a nice open hips and you know your wide length can be anywhere between 3 and 4 feet, please have at it. But for most of us, we might be somewhere between maybe even 1 and 2 tiles. So I'm just letting you know that you can fold forward here, use your hands on the chair, on the hands eventually, but I'm going to turn sideways to give you this view of standing in mountain with the hips distance apart of our feet. We're standing nice and tall. Feel that. You can roll to the toes and come on back down to the heels. Gives you a better idea of just bringing that internal rotation to the legs. And you're hopefully feeling a gentle tuck under of the tailbone. And that just brings us all into alignment, our major joints, the shoulders over the hips, over the knees, over the ankles. And as we breathe deeply, feel that sternum lifting, gentle tuck of the chin. And as you exhale, engage the core, feel rooted down your legs, even through to the mat and the earth. Let's go ahead and just step. It doesn't matter which foot, but just step out. One step to the left, to the right. Feel that opening at the feet. And how is that translating in the rest of the body? If your knees are knocking in, we're working on opening and lengthening. You may need to tuck under the tailbone. What does that look like from the side? So as we move out this way, we might be bow-legged. So we're trying to lengthen heel to toe alignment. Notice if you're rolling out to the outer edges or rolling in. That will affect your knees. And if you're too wide, that might start to ache a little bit. So you can always narrow in your stance as we are going through this opening of hips. So here we're just wanting to establish that heel to toe alignment. Do you feel the inner arches? Are they actually touching the mat or are they lifting up? So we should have a gentle contact point of the left and right ball of foot, big pad areas of the big toe as well as the pinky. And just think of the heel as being the left and the east and west side of your heel. So those are sort of the 4 points of the soles of your feet. And as more and more of that contact at the soles of the feet occur, you might just have a gentle outward rotation of your ankles. And then the lengthening of the legs. And then we'll go ahead. I'm going to step just a little bit closer to my blocks here and the chair. And as we have that leg, are you comfortable there? Are you finding your edge where you're not too far in or too unchallenged? If you can keep your pose here with a good steady pose, even steady, comfortable pose. We'll go ahead and bring our hands to the hips. Bring a slight bend to the knees if you need. We're going to start to hinge at the hips just slightly, like you're sticking your tail back out. And we will fold forward here. And again, as we're folding forward, you can bring your hands out. You can bring them to the chair, to the blocks. And all we're trying to do is lengthen to a neutral spine. You might need to relax the head. We don't want to hyperextend the knees. So from the side, hopefully your hips are somewhere above your heels. And we're just coming here. Now, if you're more comfortable here at the half lift point, please stay there. All we're doing is just folding slightly, and even at the half lift, that's enough of a fold. If you can fold a little more, the closer you get that chest to the thighs, the more we want to sort of feel that internal rotation of the thighs, and maybe more of the inner arches are going to meet the mat. So all you're doing is spinning your sits bones back so your hips can flex and not impinge, not catch on your pelvic bowl. And we don't want to hyperextend through the back legs. And again, you're just feeling the length. You might have super tight hamstrings. You might have a lower lumbar that is just really finding a nice stretch. As we get dehydrated from all that heat recently and moving into a drastically different season, our ability to regulate hydration, temperature control, all of that becomes affected. And that translates to maybe tighter, stiffer bones and bodies. Okay, so we've been here for a while. To come on out, we're going to give a good bend to the knees and pivot in the heels. Bring more of that foot stance right underneath the hips. And let's walk on up. If we're on blocks, we're going to walk on up however is comfortable, using the blocks, using the chair if you need. But eventually when you start to walk up, feel that nice hips over heels, center of gravity. So all you have to do is press into those legs, really lengthen through so you can bring up the torso, and then relax. Whew. Give that just a nice shake. If you had activation in the hips, that is not turned off, so you can just gently kick. You can sway from left to right. Do minor small movements that help you to let go. And then We'll be coming down once more, so step into your wide-legged stance. And here, if you have your blocks in front of you, that's great. If you need your blocks in your hands, I'm sorry, I could have cued for that too. If it's easier to start with the blocks in the hands, please do so as well. But as we're standing in our wide-legged stance once more, just feeling that good edge, then we can go ahead and bring the blocks to our hips or our hands to the hips. Inhale deeply, nice and long. Give a slight bend to the knees if you need to, and start to hinge at the hips. Stick the butt back, walk the hands down if you need, get to your chair, get to your blocks on the floor, or just walk the hands until you're somewhere there. And then you can set those blocks down. See if you can stick the tailbone back and come into a deeper stance without sacrificing this foundation at the feet and the length. Hopefully you find it just a little bit more open in the hips. Maybe your fold is just a little bit longer. If it comes to be a little too much, you can always come out with and go back in with less intensity. Now hopefully you have your hands on the blocks, or if you don't need the blocks and you can just stay in your forward fold, we're going to lengthen into a half lift purposefully. So if you don't have the blocks, you're just going to be touching perhaps the floor, lengthening. If you have the blocks, you're here. If you have the chair, you're here. You're just trying to lengthen from the tailbone to the crown of the head. Inhaling deeply, feel that lengthening as well from the hips down to the feet. Nice stability there. And as we have the back in that nice half lift position, we're going to exhale, engage the core, gentle bend to the knees if you need, and watch how your inner thighs feel. We're just going to start to walk the blocks to the left side. Keep the feet where they are, but if it's too much to move to the left side and you need to lift that right heel, or whichever opposite heel that you're going to, then do so. You don't want to go too far to the left or right. But hopefully you're finding that nice stretch from the right hip all the way to the right shoulder, maybe even through the muscles of those tight ribs. Inhaling and exhaling here. And then as we inhale, come back to center. Nice and long. And then exhale, walk on over to the other side. Do not lift this left foot from the area. You can lift the left heel if you need, but not the entire left foot. If you have to, then that means maybe you're just a little too wide out, and you can make it a shorter, narrower stance. But here we're getting that nice stretch as well. You can make micro movements. Feel that stretch in the hips. Wiggle just slightly, subtly from side to side the hips. Take another deep inhale here. A deep exhale. Engage the core. And then inhale. Walk that nice long back to center. And then we're going to pivot the toes in, pivot the toes, heels, pivot in until finally they're heel to toe alignment. Just walk your feet back in and then come on down. You can do a number of things. Here at this halfway mark, you can use the chair or use the flattest point of the blocks, but we're going to start to walk the feet back and come on down to a squat. You can bring the blocks, you can rest your shins on the blocks to help you. You can bring your hands to the sides, bring the knees down, and if you can find your way to this halfway point, it looks like a squat or a hero, but we can move from both, sort of rocking, sort of giving an arch stretch. And if putting your knees down on the floor is not something, then we're just going to work on our opening our arches, hopefully giving some opening to the hips as well, and lengthening. Eventually moving from the squat to just bringing the feet to rest, untucked toes. And you might have a blanket underneath your feet. You might have a blanket nearby. Roll it up, put it somewhere between the hips and the heels. Maybe you have a block to do that. But eventually we just want to rest the hips onto the heels. You may need to lift the legs and bring them in and feel that internal rotation with your thighs. You want to bring the knees together. If you're feeling yourself kind of rolling out, we want to roll back in. You should feel yourself lift slightly. And if you have to, always, you can sit on the flat of a block. You might have to widen your heels a little bit, but you can always sit. Hello, if I can reach that, either on the edge, on top, until eventually you're just sitting on the heels. Now, if you've been here for a while, you can untuck the toes. We're sitting in our hero pose for just a moment more. And if your torso is upright, that's a great place to land at the end of your hero pose. You may still be working on lifting the torso, and that's okay. Whichever stage that you're in with your hero pose, we're just keeping a good breath here. And coming out, we'll bring those blocks back under our hands, lift up and tuck the toes if you need, coming back up into that squat, or just moving the hips off to the side. We'll meet in our seated position here. An easy seated position can be sort of like a one leg out in front of the other. You can sit in the chair as well. But for someone like me, where my hips are really tight, my knees are tight, my knees are really way up high. So I will benefit from having a block or multiple blankets, rolled up blankets, something to elevate the hips above the heels, above the knees. And for some of us, we might have to be in the chair until we can come on down to the floor. You can also be in your staff position, which is essentially just sitting on the sits bones with the legs out in front of you. And again, we don't want to hyperextend the knees, keep a gentle bend there. But if your staff position or an easy seated position, one leg out in front of the other, we're finally finding our sits bones. So just give yourself some breath and time to sit upright. Again, the sits bones are kind of like our feet. We want to feel that good support. The tailbone might feel like it's sticking out, so you'll have this slight forward tilt of the pelvic bowl. It just helps to bring the spine upwards. We're going to inhale nice and tall, and then kind of be able to sink the spine into this 90-degree angle, hopefully somewhere here. You can notice how the legs are responding to your sits bones sitting upright. You might have the feet rolling out. See if you can have the knees and the toes in the same orientation up towards the ceiling. So you might have that internal rotation of the thighs somewhat. And if those feet are underneath your hip bones in your staff position, and then just relax. Now, as we're allowing our hips to open naturally with gravity just bearing down at the crown of the head, through the spine, through to our well-supported sits bones and position here, then we can focus on shoulders for a moment. Go ahead, start to roll the shoulders slightly. And of course, you could be sitting in the chair. Your sits bones would be near to the edge of the chair, but your feet would be at a 90-degree angle underneath bent knees. So sitting in the chair, sitting here on the floor, we're sitting up nice and tall. Go ahead and bring the hands out in front of you. If you can touch your palms, you want that nice opening to the back. So keep them somewhere about the elbow length. Keep it a little lower. Notice how that feels at the tops of the shoulders. Inhale it higher, maybe even a little higher, but keep the torso in the same place. Notice how that feels to the shoulders, to the back of the shoulders. Go ahead and interclasp the fingers. Hold on to them. Point the knuckles towards, away from you. And then flex your feet. And then relax the feet. Go ahead and reverse the palm space. See if you can press out. If you have arthritis in the hands, just do your best. See if you can lengthen. See if you can bring your thumbs to point downward eventually. Opening up with the inhale and exhaling, engage the core. We'll go ahead and turn the knuckles back in, and fully exhaled, we're just pushing those knuckles out, hopefully you feel that nice length at the back of the shoulder blades. We're really protracting the shoulder blades away from the spine. Let's go ahead and release the arms. Just let them relax at the sides. Palms are facing up. Let the legs relax. And hopefully you'll feel a loosening right here at the hip flexors here. Just a kind of loosening, but not lose that position. A deep breath or two just to relax. And then we're going to inhale. Bend the left knee and bring it to an external rotation as you slowly bring the left sole of the foot towards the inner thigh. If you're sitting in staff, if you're sitting in a chair or easy seated, we're just going to eventually try to have a half open butterfly. So if you're in the chair, you can just roll onto the outer edge, opening up this left hip as it's comfortable. You don't need to put this left foot anywhere except for perhaps, closer to the left, to the right leg. And as you come in a little closer, we're hoping to keep that upright position. And once you find your edge, breathe there. We're hopefully allowing the next 3 to 5 breath cycles to find any tightness in this left hip, any tightness in the back of this long extended leg. And we're lengthening with each inhale. And exhale, we're releasing and relaxing those very joints that we're working on here. If you notice that you really started to relax and the belly and the core was lost, re-engage the core and come back. And as you reach your 5th breath cycle, to come on out, we're going to inhale and start to internally rotate before you bring that leg into extension. So if you're in the chair, you're just internally rotating before you lengthen that leg. If you're on the floor, it is as we just did. And give yourself a tap out, a gentle wave of this leg, a gentle rotation. See if you can feel that rotation from the hip joint all the way to the leg, just slightly rolling on the back of the heel, tapping out that knee. We'll go ahead and point the foot once more, engage that big pad under the big toe, and then relax that leg. Now sitting, you can bring your knees back to that 90-degree position, but we're going to bend the left knee now, or the right knee, and we're moving to the other side. Pay attention to how the body responds. Use the next 3 to 5 breaths. See if you can move to the outer edge of that right foot as you start to externally rotate on that right hip, and just bring it towards the inner leg of the left leg. And just see where that is. Coming back to that upright position. If you have to roll onto the tailbone, so to speak, if you have to start to curve out that back, that's just a little too much, and you're still hopefully working on opening through there without losing this upright position. Keeping the hips externally rotated so you can bring more of a deeper opening to this right hip as you're able. And once you've completed your last breath, we'll go ahead, inhaling, bringing that internal rotation as we extend through that right leg once more. Give it a tap out, give it any subtle movements that feel good to help you release still activated muscles. You might point the toe, flex the foot, relax the leg. A gentle rotation from the hip all the way down to the heel. Whatever it takes. And as we're moving into the last pose or so, let's meet on our belly and bringing the legs to tuck under you if you need to, however you're able to get onto the belly. And if your mat starts to move, go ahead and straighten that. But we'll meet on the belly. Sometimes it helps, especially if you have a bony hip, to just have a blanket somewhere on the belly. but eventually we'll be rolling onto our back. And sometimes having this extra padding here helps on a boning sacrum as well. So coming on down, whichever way works for you, one forearm at a time, maybe just rolling onto there. If you have glasses, go ahead and take them off. Our first time on the belly, it might feel really good to just let those hips open and feel supported by the floor. I'm keeping my head turned to one side, but I'll be balancing it with the other side in a while. You can also just keep a gentle mouth, nose, smoosh on the mat, or even if it feels okay on your shoulders, to have the back of your hands pillow and support the brow line. But all we're doing here is just giving maybe about 3 to 5 breath cycles here, just to let the hips feel supported. We've been standing all this time, we've been flexing the hips, we've been really working them out, so it might feel good to just have them nice and supported without any effort. With the next breath, go ahead and turn your head to the other side if you had your face turned to one side. And then extend the arms down to your side. Palms are facing up. And I'm just going to turn my head to the side so hopefully my mic doesn't get covered. But hopefully give yourself a gentle press of the chest and the belly and the pubic bone to slightly bring the face back to center, hovered somewhere above the mat, the mouth and the nose. We're going to lengthen through the arms and the feet, so really point through the toes, engaging, if you can, imagine it, your glutes, your thighs, your calves, the arches even, the toes, just a slight engagement. Same thing with the arms, from the fingertips to the forearms, to the shoulders, just an engagement. You're still in contact with the mat. You're just extending along the mat on the floor, nice and long, and then release. You can wiggle out any leftover activation. You can roll, you can bend the knees and roll the ankles one direction and the other direction. Maybe alternately in different directions. Just give yourself a nice little gentle roll at the ankles. Maybe you'll feel a stretch along the shin muscle. And then notice if your shoulders are rolled up, see if you can relax them. Lower the feet if they're bent. We'll come on down one more time with our locust on our belly. Arms are extended down to the side, maybe a little bit off of the hip area. Feet are nice and long under the hip bones. Toes are pointed, hands are nice and relaxed, but go ahead and bring the fingers to point. We're going to extend from the shoulders down to the finger points. We're going to extend from the hips down to the toes. Nice and long activation, still in contact with the mat. And then take a nice deep breath, press into the belly, and lengthen through the feet. See if you can let the toes hover as you're still engaged from the hips to the toes. If you start to cramp up at the feet, relax the feet and bring the toes and the legs back down. But if you're able to keep that point, just see if you can lift the feet up off of the floor. Maybe you can even bring more activation into the glutes, and you can bring more of the thigh off of the floor. And then release the feet back. Let the arms relax. Turn the gaze to the other side. And just give yourself a couple of breaths. Notice if you're holding your shoulders up. Just let them release and melt into the mat. And then go ahead and bring the hands underneath the shoulders. Walk the palms and fingers upwards until the elbows are somewhere underneath the shoulders. And we're going to hopefully have this opening where we're just lengthening from that point of our belly up through to the crown of the head. We're looking straight at the mat. Shoulders, if they're caving in, we're just going to imagine that they're protracting away from the spine. Just pull them in opposite directions. And the arms from the forearm, palms to the fingertips, it's all one nice support line, pressing down from all points. So all we have to do is inhale, press gently downward so we can inhale and just slowly pull forward our torso.
As we inhale and breathe, we might just slightly make some movement at the top of our rib cage where the ribs join. The skin of the belly lifting on each inhale. Skin of the belly relaxing with the exhale. Couple more breath cycles here. See if you can relax the hands. And then exhale, slowly let each vertebra melt back to the floor. Elbows spin outwards so you can just pivot the back of the hands to rest the brow line. Go ahead and come up to the tiptoes of your feet if that feels good to you, or just let yourself relax for a breath. And then we'll find our way to our back. Coming into Shavasana, you might have an extended arm above your shoulder. If that feels good to you, you could just roll onto your side and then eventually onto your back. You might roll off the mat and then you just inch your way, shoulders a little bit, hips a little bit, back onto the mat. If you have good, strong upper body movement, strength, maybe a modified reverse push-up with bent knees until you can sit up. However you come onto your back, in Shavasana, all we're trying to do is respond to today's practice. So you keep nice extended legs and arms off to the side. And as you do so, you might have your feet separate, pointing towards the corners of the mat. You might have this space between the lumbar, the lower back, and the mat that's so pronounced that maybe it might feel good to kind of have a folded blanket there to help support your lower back. Maybe blocks under the knees. But as you make your small adjustments, we're just getting nice and long, resting in Shavasana, supported under the knees, under the neck, under the back if that feels good, and the arms extended out to the side, palms up. I'm going to sit up and mind the time. As you lay in Shavasana, belly is soft, legs are long, eyes can be closed or not, but just let the body respond. If your mind begins to wander, that's okay, just note it and come back to the breath. And when you hear the 3 bells, it will be time to awaken. bringing the mind back to the body. Take note of sounds outside the room, sounds within the room, and finally back to the breath. Notice the air as it enters the nose, the air as it exits the nose. And as you become connected to the body once more, feel free to make any movements such as wiggling the fingers, rocking the body, maybe pointing and flexing the feet, anything that feels good and enables you to reconnect to the body vessel once more. We'll meet in an upright seated position. You can roll to one side in fetal position, sit up with the help of your kickstand hand and arms. You can rock and roll your way back up. I'm sitting in a hero position. We'll be ending class with our breath of fire exercise. We've done that a few times in this class, but we're really going to be focusing in as we move into the cooler weather. It helps us to really ignite our inner furnace. It gets you energized and going if you're feeling a little sleepy. It also helps to strengthen your core, everything you need to keep your back strong, your core engaged, so that you can sit up and move out of these positions that are every day. Alrighty, so sitting nice and upright, we're feeling our sits bones once more, whether you're sitting in staff, in a hero pose, or with one shin out in front of the other. Just feel as if you've got that good support. You can rock from left to right on the sits bones, forward and back, sitting all the way upright. If you're in the traditional pose of hero, we're sitting with the sits bones on the heels and an engagement of the inner thighs. Roll them inward. It's that feeling of that inner condensing of your energy. You should be able to feel the pelvic floor lift and your core engaged. And with that, we'll sit up nice and tall. Breathing in through the nose, and we're shooting out through pursed lips. Almost as if we're bellowing through the belly. So we don't have to worry about the inhale. It's more of shooting out the exhales, and we'll automatically inhale enough air for the next round. So we'll do a total of 10 for the first round, but our second set will be 20. And at the very last breath of each set, we're just holding in the breath. We'll be cued to hold it, lift your pelvic floor, almost as if you're cutting the urination stream, and then we'll gently tuck the chin and kind of have this energy lock from the chin to the root of our bellies with that power of the breath of fire. So having said that, I'm going to turn sideways just for a side benefit, and we'll start with a nice cleansing breath. Inhale deeply and holding the core, holding that belly in. We'll go ahead and blow through pursed lips 10 times. Fully exhaled here. Hold your breath. We're lifting the pelvic floor. We're chin locking gently, feeling that energy kind of moving from these 2 points. Holding it for about 3 to 4 breath cycles. And then exhale. Just relax with a slow exhale. Shh. You may feel yourself even lower down in your pose. Let the breath be natural. In our second set will be 20. Inhaling nice and deep, engage the core, feel that inner rotation, feel nice and supported. Inhaling deeply, exhale. Shh. Fully exhaled here. And relax. Let the breath return to its natural state. Bringing hands to heart center. Thank you so much for joining me here for our noontime yoga at the ACC community room. I hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste. Thank you. Yay! Thank you.
Thank you, Jeani.
Thank you, everyone. Don't forget to drink water. Drink water.
Okay.